Welcome to the So That's Why podcast, where we unpack the science behind everyday questions. I'm Jen.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Matt.
Okay, so today we're tackling something that gets people worked up in the supplement world. Why do supplements have so many extra ingredients? I see comments online all the time like, this has magnesium stearate, it's full of fillers, or I only buy filler-free supplements. But here's what's interesting. Most people don't actually know what these ingredients are or why they're there.
Yeah, it's definitely a craze, isn't it, at the moment? The clean supplement craze that makes you overthink every single ingredient. And it's easy to get caught up, I think, in checking labels for fillers and additives, thinking, is this really necessary? So I guess there's more to it, right, Chris?
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, this is such an important topic, and it's something that's really close to our hearts because we're the team behind Vegetology supplements. I'm a formulation scientist, and hopefully by the end of this episode, we'll have explained that the term filler is misleading. And often these things described as fillers actually do rather important jobs in the formulas.
So we're going to look at some of the most common ingredients people worry about, what they actually do, whether their concerns are valid, and reveal some practices in the industry that are genuinely questionable, though not for the reasons most people think.
Exactly. So, when people say filler, they're usually referring to an ingredient that isn't the active nutrient like the vitamin or the mineral, but these are actually called excipients rather than fillers. And here's the thing. Supplement companies don't actually, financially benefit by adding these things unnecessarily. These ingredients add cost. So if we could make a tablet, for instance, with just pure vitamin D3 powder, we would. But the problem is it's often physically impossible. So we need these ingredients or these excipients.
Right, because we're dealing with microscopic amounts. So think about vitamin B12. You might need 100 micrograms. That's like a millionth of a gram. You literally can't see that with the naked eye, let alone measure it consistently or make a tablet with it.
So without these excipients then, we would be trying to take something in a quantity literally too small to see. Like, I don't know, trying to swallow the tablet the size of a pinhead maybe.
That'd be easy for me though, because I struggle swallowing supplements, so that would be great if we could do that.
But no, definitely. I mean, that is one consideration, the size. But the other consideration is the product form itself. So without excipients, you'd literally have a pile of powder rather than a tablet. So, and in the case of vitamin B12 or D3 that you mentioned, it'd be a very small pile of powder. But if we talk about what these ingredients or excipients actually do, there are several categories depending on the product type. So with the example of tablets, we need binders to literally hold the tablet together. Or in the case of capsules, so these are the hard two shell things that snap together filled with a powder. We need these ingredients to actually get the mix into the capsule itself because it needs a little bit of flow to do that. So if you think of a beach, we like to think of the beach, right?
All the time.
You've got fine beach sand versus kind of wet sandcastle sand. If you've got fine beach sand, you could flow it through your fingers. Right, it'd be almost like flowing a liquid. You could get that into a small capsule very easily through a machine or whatever. But if you've got big, wet, horrible sand, you can make a lovely sandcastle, but you've got no chance of getting that into a capsule because it's too big and heavy and wouldn't flow at all. So what we need in these situations is something to give that flow or improve the flow if it's not quite there.
Okay, so let's leave the beach and think a bit about some of the main ingredients that people get worried about. So let's start with magnesium stearate, which is probably the most controversial. So Chris, what is it?
So magnesium stearate is a salt of stearic acid, which is totally natural. It's a natural ingredient we consume all day, every day in things like cooking oil, chocolate, or any oily food. And in supplements, we use a very small amount of magnesium stearate, like milligram quantities, to improve the flow of nutrients and help to form tablets. When it comes to capsules, without it, those ingredients often stick to the machinery or refuse to go into the capsules, like that wet sandcastle sand I mentioned.
So what is the concern then that people actually have with it?
Well, firstly, magnesium stearate, it doesn't sound very natural, does it?
No.
So that immediately kicks off the kind of chemophobia thing. But there have been some links with issues with magnesium stearate when it comes to the gut. and gut health, but they've been completely defunct. So research shows magnesium stearate can actually improve gut health by preventing biofilm formation. And albeit those benefits are unlikely in a supplement because the levels are so small, it's probably not really doing anything.
And then there's also the dose issue to consider. So the FDA considers it safe up to 2,500 milligrams per kilogram of body weight daily. So for like the average 70 kilogram person, that's 175,000 milligrams, whereas you may be getting 50 milligrams in a capsule. So when you actually do the maths on that, it's 0.03% of the safety threshold.
And that's if you're the average 70 kilogram person, which I'm not and haven't been for a long time. But it's kind of ironic, right? So avoiding supplements with magnesium stearate whilst eating everyday foods like chocolate that contain far more of the ingredients seems a bit odd.
Exactly. It's just the spotlight goes on the wrong things sometimes. So that's magnesium stearate. Now, silicon dioxide, also known as silica or sand. And silicon dioxide is literally essentially sand in its natural crystalline form. You'll know this because you often see little bags of silicon dioxide when you buy a handbag or a
which
TV.
you do on a regular basis.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Or your shoe boxes. You get them in shoe boxes, don't you?
Now, in supplements, we use a tiny amount of highly pure silica in its amorphous form. And what it does, it prevents clumping of what you're trying to get into that supplement and absorbs moisture.
But there is a legitimate concern about silicon dioxide being a nanoparticle, though, isn't there? Some research suggests that nanoparticles potentially behave differently in the body and cause problems.
Yeah, absolutely right when it comes to nanoparticles. And the European Food Safety Authority have been reviewing this, particularly regarding use in infant formulas. But it's really important to distinguish here because most silica or silicon dioxide used in supplements is non-nano, which means the particles are larger than would be for nanoparticles and are of no concern whatsoever.
So hang on. Silicon dioxide is sand, right? Now, I have spent most of my life trying to get sand out of my sandwiches when I'm at the beach. But apparently in my supplements, I'm now consuming sand again. But it sounds, listening to you talk, it sounds like it's not quite the sort of clear-cut, definitely safe story of magnesium stearate, perhaps. Am I hearing that right?
That's true because it's more difficult because of this nano issue, but that's why it's so important to get clarity from supplement brands so they can confirm exactly what they're using or indeed what they're using and what they're not using. So we, for example, we would never use nano-sized ingredients of any variety in our products at Vegetology.
Okay, so another ingredient that's often used is maltodextrin. And this is an interesting one because it gets a lot of negative press online. So tell us more about maltodextrin.
Yes, so starting with what it is. So maltodextrin is a material that is derived from starch. So it comes from items such as potatoes or maize. So again, it's a completely natural ingredient and of very high purity. And then in terms of what it does, well, firstly, it's very useful at helping to hold things together because it's quite sticky. So it's great for that kind of binding effect in a tablet. But the other thing we found useful is maltodextrin allows us to create a really simple, chewable tablet structure that has a bit of sweetness. And indeed, we use it in our Vegetology vitamin D3 tablets for that reason, because it means we don't need a really complicated tablet formulation full of additional sweeteners and ingredients to make it soft and chewable. We get all of these things from one single excipient, being maltodextrin.
So it's perfectly safe and inert, meaning it doesn't do anything negative or positive at the doses used in supplements. And the amounts we're talking about in a tablet are tiny, again, maybe 100 to 200 milligrams.
Exactly. And that's the thing about the dose, which again we've come back to. So you will see online claims about maltodextrin's high glycemic index or negative effects on gut bacteria. But these concerns come from studies using doses that are orders of magnitude higher than those used in a supplement. We're talking about, many grams per day.
So it's literally then a case of it's the dose that makes the poison, right? And these negative links have no real relevance on the levels used in supplements.
Precisely. And that's a fundamental principle of toxicology. The dose makes the poison, as you say. And at the minuscule amounts used in a supplement, maltodextrin is doing exactly what we need it to do without any effects, negative or positive. It's just doing its job.
It's actually a perfect example of why you need to look at real world context. So yes, consuming large amounts of a certain ingredient daily from multiple processed foods might have implications, but a small amount in a chewable vitamin tablet, well, it's a completely different scenario.
Yeah, and the filler-free marketing then also misses this point, doesn't it, completely? So a question, I guess, would be, can these excipients, or fillers as some people call them, actually help supplement performance?
You're way ahead of me here.
As always, Chris.
So that's the thing. So well-formulated supplements, they think about ingredient interactions. So there are some nutrients that shouldn't be combined or anywhere near each other in the same formula because they might interact or compete for absorption in the body. So good formulation means needing excipients to keep things apart or to change how and when these different nutrients are released in the body for absorption. Whereas poor quality supplements often just lump nutrients together and hope for the best.
I mean, this is all really helpful information for people who, either never check the ingredients list on their supplements, and for those who do. In vegetology, we often get asked about ingredients all the time. We get asked about Carrageenan. Now, this is a textbook case of research misinterpretation. So tell us about Carrageenan.
My favourite. So, firstly, Carrageenan is a completely natural gum material obtained from seaweed. It's the kind of slimy stuff in seaweed together with the alginate. And it's used as thickener in food. So you find it in things like desserts and custards. And we use it in the soft gel capsules that we form. And we use it in place of gelatin, which is animal derived, and it helps to form the capsule itself. We need a tiny amount, like much lower than the levels of possible alternative compounds to Carrageenan.
So what are the concerns with this one, and if it's natural?
So the concerns are around inflammation potential, but they originated from studies on a different material called polygenan, which is a degraded derivative of Carrageenan, and it's a completely different compound, not even permitted for use in foods or supplements. It's literally like saying water is dangerous because of studies about hydrogen peroxide.
Plus, the studies were on much higher quantities and on animals decades ago, and we know that animal biology differs vastly to human biology.
That's right. So with Carrageenan, it's the perfect storm of internet-fueled nonsense because we have people talking about Carrageenan while actually referring to a different compound tested on a different species at a colossally higher level, and it's tarnishing the name of a perfectly safe ingredient.
So what we're saying is, if there's an ingredient listed that you see and you're not sure about it, or you've heard concerning information about it, reach out to your supplement company and ask them why they use it. Any reputable supplement company should be able to give you the information you need about an ingredient to put your mind at rest.
Yeah, and actually every ingredient should be listed, but unfortunately there are some genuinely dodgy practices, aren't there, in this industry? Let's be real. Tell us, Chris, one of the things I want you to explain is the salt shaker situation.
Oh, the salt shaker,
dun,
yes.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, this one's priceless. So, a bit of background. So when companies manufacture supplements in capsule form, I mentioned these are the two pieces that snap together and contain a powder. You need a degree of flow to get whatever you're trying to get into the capsule actually into it. So you remember that analogy I used earlier of the fine sand on the beach would go in quite easily. The wet, perfectly sandcastle sand wouldn't. So we need a bit of a flow aid.
So manufacturers blend small amounts of flow agents like magnesium stearate or microcrystalline cellulose directly into the formula and list them on the label.
Exactly. Well, when it comes to the last bit listed on the label, we'll come to that now. So you wouldn't believe what sometimes happens. So there are some companies that have their vitamin mix or whatever they're trying to get into the capsule, and it's got no flow, and so they're trying and failing to get it into the capsule. So what they do is they literally, at their machine, they have what can only be described as a big salt shaker, full of a flow aid like magnesium stearate, and they're pouring it in and kind of stirring it into this vitamin
Seasoning
mix.
their supplement.
Trying to give it enough flow to get into the capsule. But what's crazy is, because they consider this salt shaker contents to be a lubricant or a processing aid, they don't declare it as an ingredient on the product label.
Which is wild, right? I mean, that's proper wild, isn't it? So they're using the same ingredients they're criticising other companies for in their marketing material, but they're just not declaring them.
Exactly, but what's worse is they'll use far higher levels, because if you think we've got a perfectly optimised, nice blend that we've done on a food blender, your Kenwood food blender, other brands are available.
We're not sponsored by them.
They're doing it afterwards, in a kind of hopper above the machine, so they'll need far higher quantities. And you can sometimes spot this. So we recently bought some so-called clean capsules from another company containing a plant extract that contained no fillers. We were intrigued actually as to how they'd done it, so we wanted to take a look. And although the plant extract in the capsules was beige in colour, we could see white specks of powder. And there was even a white residue on the capsules and in the bottle. In fact, let's just say it was magnesium stearate white. But there was no mention on the ingredient list of anything white at all.
I mean, that's genuinely problematic transparency-wise. At Vegetology, we do list every ingredient, including sub-ingredients, don't we? So if a plant extract is made with maltodextrin as a carrier, we declare it.
Oh, definitely. And plant extracts are another great example. So they always have sub-ingredients. So as you say, for instance, our ashwagandha extract is extracted onto maltodextrin. And sometimes you use cellulose or starches too. But they should be on the ingredient list. But there seem to be a few occasions where one or two brands accidentally forget to mention these things on the list and just say ashwagandha extract, nothing else.
That's mental, isn't it? And we're not going to name names.
Name and shame.
Name and shame. We should maybe do that one day. I don't know. But it's proper sketchy behaviour, isn't it? And especially if they're using these ingredients and not being transparent about it.
No, absolutely. And I think to forget to list flow aids or so-called lubricants or sub-ingredients is one thing, but to then be making a big noise about how clean or filler-free the product is, it is completely unacceptable. As you say, it's not our role to name people or police it. All we'd ever say is ask the question. If you don't get the answer, that probably tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah. So I think we can conclude then that filler-free supplements that you see marketed aren't necessarily genuine, are they? But also, I kind of know the answer to this, but they're not actually better quality either.
Not necessarily, no. And in fact, sometimes they might be worse because they may have compromised on stability of the product or bioavailability, as in, does it get into the body and work, just to try and avoid certain excipients or fillers to jump on a bandwagon. What ultimately matters is whether the product contains the active ingredients that are in the right forms at effective doses and that the product's been formulated properly.
So the filler-free label doesn't tell you anything about the quality of the actual nutrients. A supplement could avoid magnesium stearate but use poorly absorbed forms of the vitamin, or ineffective doses or combinations that interfere with each other's absorption.
Yeah, so this clean label thing then seems to have definitely driven this pressure to make these changes, but to make changes that it could ultimately compromise the products, right?
It has, but it's fair to say the clean label movement, it has done some good, because I think on the whole it's pushed transparency and made some companies think a bit harder about the formulation. So we've seen companies that would traditionally just import cheap multivitamins, the cheapest they could find. They're now spending more time thinking about the formulas and the quality. But you are right, clean label thing has also created some marketing nonsense, just like fair trade, just like organic, and so many other kind of sweeping themes that affect the market.
Yeah.
So after listening to this, people might be wondering what they should actually look for on a supplement label. So if this is you, first check that the active ingredients are in bioavailable forms. So that means, for example, vitamin D3, not D2, folate for folic acid, EPA and DHA for omega-3, and chelated mineral forms. And you should be able to see all this information on the label.
Yep, and secondly, look for transparency. So that label, it should list everything, every ingredient. That includes sub-ingredients. It should include process aids or lubricants or whatever else. If something seems to be missing, ask that company directly.
Yeah, and the thing which I liked about what you said earlier is your white powder test. And if you're just joining in right now, that sounds a bit sketchy, doesn't it?
Go back to the start.
So if your filler-free supplements have this sort of mysterious white residue where the contents are a different colour, maybe question why.
And fourth, consider the company's expertise. Are they formulators with nutritional science backgrounds or marketers sitting with a laptop and importing the cheapest multivitamins they can find?
I mean, that's it. I mean, at Vegetology, we're formulation scientists. It's what we do. It's what we've been doing for over 30 years. You know, we choose every ingredient deliberately. We use the minimum necessary levels of excipients, and we optimize our formulas to deliver them effectively to the body and for stability of that product. But more than that, we're happy to talk about why we do what we do.
Great. So why do supplements then have these extra ingredients? Well, because making supplements takes a lot of consideration to achieve good stability, good performance, and to literally be able to manufacture them.
And the common excipients are safe at the tiny doses used in supplements. The research that raises concerns typically involves vastly higher amounts, different forms, or different exposure routes than the supplement use.
That's it. And the real issue isn't whether excipients or fillers are present. It's whether the formulation is well designed, optimized to deliver the nutrients to your body, and that company is transparent in what it does and why.
And in this industry then, there are some good companies. There genuinely are. And you can always tell them, can't you, a good company? Because if you ask them a question, they're going to answer it well and they're going to answer it honestly.
Yeah. So that's why supplements have these extra ingredients known as excipients. So that's it for this week. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're unpacking the science behind everyday questions each week. And tell us in the comments what questions you'd like us to explore. Thanks for geeking out with us. But for now, that's it from me.
That's it from me.
And that's it from me.
Bye for now.